happy crafters. Oh my goodness, I have some more fun fall DIYs for you. I've got 4 easy DIYs for you to make using supplies that you can get at the Dollar Tree. So let's get started.
It all just goes away. Things I plan to say. Oh baby.
Now, if you love the Pottery Barn style, but not the Pottery Barn price tag, you can make some really unique vessels and raised bowls using things from the Dollar Tree. So I took a vase and then this garden dish. And yes, I am showing me removing all of the tags because these tags that are on the garden dish, this is the important ones to remove for this project. The one on the bottom of the vase, that is not that big of a deal because it's going to be covered up. Next, I took some E6000 and I put a pretty big dollop of the E6000 onto that vase on the bottom of the vase, and then I secured the garden dish to the top. You can measure it if you really want to make sure that you get this perfectly centered. I'm not that type of a crafter, so I just eyeball it when I'm doing crafts like this, and this is the vessel when it's all complete. And once I was happy with the position of the garden dish on the vase, I let it set and dry for about 24 hours before moving on to the next part. So I'm going to take this folk art acrylic matte paint, and this is in the color parchment, and I'm going to put a fair amount of that into a plastic container, which will be my paint bowl. Now, I want to give some texture to this vase, so I'm going to be using salt wash, but if you don't have salt wash, you can do this with baking soda as well. So I put probably a little too much salt wash into my paint, so it made it really thick. I don't want it quite that thick, so I am going to add a little bit more of that folk art acrylic paint because I want to have this have a consistency of like whipping cream. That's the best way I can describe it. So it is a thicker paint, but that is what gives it the texture when you put it onto something like this, like plastic and glass from the Dollar Tree. And with that added texture, I'm able to completely coat this raised bowl with the paint in just one coat of the paint. So I did the bottom first because that's going to be the easiest. And then I flipped it over, making sure that there was no glass peeking through. And then I came back and did the interior of the bowl. And as you can see, you can't see the price tag on the bottom of the glass vase anymore. Then I just used the rest of my paint to really give lots of texture to the inside of the bowl as well. And once it was dry, here is my Pottery Barn dupe, I guess you could say, a raised bowl. And my reason behind making this was for my fall decorating. So I have this pumpkin topiary that I use, but I also want to be able to use it like out in my regular decorating. So here is the bowl, and I really like the way that this bowl looks in my decorating. You can see a lot of my other things that I've been making this season, but I really like the pumpkins and the textured pumpkins in the bowl. And here is another dupe. This is kind of a Pottery Barn dupe. I had this Dollar Tree wreath, and then I found this really pretty orange velvet ribbon at Dollar Tree as well. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it, but I knew that I had to have this so I could make something with it. So I decided to cover this wreath form with this velvet ribbon. This ribbon is wired on the edges. For this project, it doesn't really matter if it's wired or not. And I believe this was 9 feet long. So I was hoping that I could get this all the way around the wreath. But one package of that ribbon is not enough. So I decided to use some other ribbon that I had just to see what it would look like. But I decided that I really wanted this all to be orange. So I did go back to Dollar Tree and buy another roll of that ribbon. And then I just filled in all of the places where the burlap ribbon was on my wreath form. So the smaller wreath form at Dollar Tree, it does take 2 rolls of the velvet ribbon if you want to duplicate this project. I think that looks pretty nice. Next, I gathered all of the pumpkins that I have gotten from the Dollar Tree this year just to see how many of these pumpkins that I had. It never fails. I always seem to not have enough of one product that I want to use for a project. And I wanted to make a pumpkin wreath with all of the small orange pumpkins that I have been collecting from Dollar Tree. So I took the larger ones. These are the ones that have the clips on the bottom. I removed the clips and then I hot glued them to the wreath form. I wish I had enough of those orange pumpkins to completely go around the wreath, but I didn't. But I did have some extras in white, so I secured those to the wreath form. Then I came back with some orange spice paint and I painted all of the pumpkins so that they're all going to look the same. The white ones and the orange ones that were already on the wreath, I painted those. Then I came back to these pumpkins that were on sticks and I painted all of them as well. So all of the pumpkins are going to be this orange spice color. Next, I took those tiny little pumpkins and I put them onto my wreath. Next, I took these gold glitter pumpkins and I secured these to the back of the wreath form. This will make it look more cohesive and more round all the way around the back of the wreath. Thankfully, I had enough of those little glitter pumpkins that I was able to do this, and they fit perfectly into those empty spaces. And once I was done with the back, then I flipped it over just to get another look at it and fill in any other gaps with the remaining pumpkins that I had. Then I came back with some burnt umber paint and I painted all of the stems on the pumpkins that were already on the wreath. And here is the finished wreath. I love this pumpkin wreath. This is so cute. I decided just to leave it just the pumpkins. I did not add a bow because I wanted literally just to have a pumpkin wreath. And I'm really happy with my results. Now, have you seen these paint sets at Dollar Tree? These are actually really nice. It comes with a canvas and an easel. And I like the easel, but I don't like the orange color and I don't like that it looks plastic. All I'm going to do is take some of this folk art gold metallic paint and I'm going to paint the entire easel. It did take 2 coats of the paint to really make sure none of that orange was showing through. But finding small easels like this for decorating, like if you're going to do a tiered tray or you just need something in a vignette, it's really hard to find and they can be pretty expensive. But for $1.25, you can get a nice easel that you can customize to make it whatever you want it to be, as well as a canvas that you can decorate. Now, I already had a picture in mind for this, but I just wanted to show you, if you take this little canvas and then you take some scrapbook paper, because we all have scrapbook paper, right? And there's always so many things that you can do with it. So I found a piece of scrapbook paper that I thought would look really nice as a painting, and I cut it down so that it would fit onto my tiny little canvas. Then I came back with Mod Podge and put a thick coat of Mod Podge on the top. And again, I used a texturing technique to make this look more like a painting instead of a piece of paper. Now here is the easel. Look at how pretty this is. It looks like a fancy easel. It doesn't look like it came from the Dollar Tree, does it? I really like how this turned out, and I can see doing this in the future for lots of other projects like this one. I really like that gold paint, and I think it elevates the look of this. Oh, and look at the pretty pumpkin mug. I found that on my last outing to Dollar Tree. So here is my little artwork that I made. Isn't that cute? And look at this canvas. I found this at Hobby Lobby. It's literally a canvas. That was why I really wanted to make this easel, so I could display this small little canvas. And I really want to put this on my tiered tray this year. But I really love how that looks. For this project, I'm using a Dollar Tree I think it's 4 inches by 4 inches sign. And obviously this one was from Valentine's Day. But what I did was give it a coat of burnt umber paint. I want everything to be nice and burnt umber. You can still see that heart, but that's not that big of a deal. I put a little bit of Mod Podge onto my sign. And next, I took this scrapbook paper from Hobby Lobby and secured it onto the sign. This is probably my favorite fall scrapbook paper that Hobby Lobby has had, and I went back this year and they didn't have it. So I was really bummed out, and I'm very happy that I had this one piece. They do have other ones that are similar, but it's not the same. If anyone knows where I can find this, please let me know. Once I had the paper cut down to size, then I used my Cricut braying tool and really made sure it's secured to the sign. Next, I came back with a Dollar Tree sanding block, and I just sanded down the edges of the paper, making it easier to remove. Then I came back with one more coat of the burnt umber paint to make sure that it was nice and burnt umber all the way around the sign. Now, once my sign was dry, I did have that wooden heart that I painted orange spice, and I put that into the center of my sign. Then I came back with these little black beads. These are like half beads, and I found them on Amazon, but I want them to look like they're holding the paper onto the sign. So I gave them a coat of burnt umber paint so that it will match the sides of the sign as well. They almost look like little push pins. And if I had push pins, I could have used those too, and then put them onto the corners of the sign once they were dry. Next, I put these stencils onto my sign. So I'm going to actually have 2 signs. This one that I'm working on right now is Autumn Wishes. I did not have a leaf shape, so I actually cut this out using a Dollar Tree sign. So it's not a perfect leaf, but I think it will work for this sign. This was the one I really wanted to do. And this stencil says Pumpkin Kisses. Once I made sure my stencil material was pushed down onto the wooden heart, then I came back with a foam brush and I brushed in some ivory paint. This is a chalk paint. One thing I have learned though is that acrylic paint works better than chalk paint when you're doing stencils like this. And once I was done stenciling the lettering onto the heart, I did remove the stencil material when the paint was still wet. If you wait until the paint dries, it might actually pull off some of the letters. So if you're stenciling, be sure to pull the stencil off when it is wet. I came back with some distressing ink and I brushed that all the way around this Pumpkin Kisses sign. And I believe this is in a walnut color, the distressing ink. Next, I took a tiny little wooden pumpkin and I cut down some scrapbooking paper, and then I cut it down a little bit more. And using some Mod Podge, I secured that scrapbook paper to the front of the pumpkin. It didn't take very long to dry, and then I used the sanding block just to sand off the extra paper that was going around the pumpkin. Then I used a little bit more of that distressing ink and secured it to my sign. And then I made a tiny raffia bow and put that onto the heart. And then I tied together little pieces of raffia and put those on either side of my bow. Next, I came back with some craft wired ribbon and made tiny little twirls of the ribbon, and I attached those to the tiny pumpkin on the side. I also took a couple of pip berries and I glued those to the top of my tiny pumpkin. And that is my sign. Here are both of the signs in my decorating this year. I love how these turned out. I did add a little wooden heart to the pumpkin kisses as well, but I think it's the little extra embellishments that you do that really elevate the DIY pieces that you make and make these special and unique and beautiful. My autumn wishes, I added some buttons and some different adornments, even some beads. I think they look wonderful. They are fantastic in my fall decor so far. And if you enjoy videos like this and want to learn more different types of DIY decor, go ahead and click that subscribe button. And if you click the bell notification, you'll get an alert every time I have a new video come out, which is pretty often right now because I have so many other fall DIYs that I need to share with you so you can have lots of decorating ideas for your home this year.